this open self should be your biggest window. It should not be equal like the first one, right? That should be what it should really look like, the open self. And so we have to become more comfortable with who we are. The other thing about our authentic self is examining and knowing convincingly our core values. Who am I at the core? Who am I at the core? And this is something that we absolutely have to get comfortable with. What are my uncompromising values? The things that I'm not going to change regardless of what happens. Do you have people that you know that you've met? Maybe you've known them for a long time, and you find that maybe they did something and you say, I don't know, that's out of character for that person. I'm trying to figure out why they would have done something like that. That's not them, right? It is said really that there are three great seducers. There are three great seducers. And those seducers are money, power, and fame. And it takes us away from our core values if we're not careful. And so, one of the things that I always encourage people to do in our Authentically You sessions is to sit down and define your core values and say, these are uncompromising values for me. These are the three things or the four things that are high value to me. And I'm not going to compromise these values for anything. This makes the difference between somebody who decides I'm going to take the bribe or not take the bribe. This determines what kind of jobs you take and what kind of jobs you do not take, regardless of how much money it is paying. I'm not getting tangled up in that. That's not where my heart is. That's not who I am, right? This determines how much you're going to give up for a life, and you have to define who you are, right? What are your core values? What are those core values? And one of the ways that you can help determine your core values again is going back to the things that you heard growing up. A lot of things you will find that you value today, they are principles that you gathered way back in your life. And see, this is the reason why I say we can't be running from our past. We can't be running from our past because buried in our past are some key things that are foundational to us moving forward, right? My mother died many years ago, and I still hear her say, right, whenever there was a news item about a public office, because I worked in the public service for many years, she would call and say, did you hear that? I would die from embarrassment if ever any of you were on TV and they were saying that you did what that person did. And so for me, that integrity, that whole idea of the fact that I cannot allow myself to accept bribery or being involved in any issue of corruption, is that that value comes from my mother, right? And so we have to examine what are those core values for us. Because if we are not grounded in those values, we lose our authentic self. And we have to ask ourselves, like, why is it some people do what they do? They've lost touch of their values. And when these great seducers came courting, they took the bait, right? How many of us wouldn't want to earn more money? I would. All of us would, right? We dream of a job that pays far more. But what are you willing to compromise in order to get that money? We're looking at getting promoted. What are you willing to compromise in order to have more power over those that you are currently working for? Right? I mean, these are things that we have to ask ourselves when we start talking about our authentic self, right? What are these great seducers for you? And how is it that you're going to make sure that when the time come, when they come knocking, because they will come knocking as you progress, as you move forward in life, as you start to realize your dreams and become ambitious. These are the things that will be staring you in the face, right? And you have to know who you are at the core if you are going to avoid these seducers. So what I